Modern Iranian culture has been strongly influenced by Islam, which has become the national religion and has imbued many of its laws and Arabian customs into Middle Eastern culture. However, along with Islamic culture, the Iranians also have their own culture, which peaked under the Sasanian Empire. Some of their art even included carving sculptures into cliff faces. This empire may be relatively unknown today in Western culture, but their army was powerful enough to fight with the Roman and Byzantine empires and win. The Sasanian Empire, also known as the Second Persian Empire, was a critical part of the development of Iranian culture. As the last Persian empire before the arrival of the Arabs and Islamic culture, the Sasanian Empire left a profound impact on the Middle East that can still be felt today. The empire, ruled by the Sasanian dynasty, lasted from 224 CE to 651 CE. They overthrew the Parthians, another Middle Eastern empire who fought the Romans several times and lived to tell the tale. They also took on fights with both Rome and the Byzantine Empire. The Sasanian Empire was critical to the development of the Middle East, so it is time to examine this empire to see how it rose and fell. By looking over their culture, we can see parallels to the modern world and perhaps catch a glimpse of how their impact continues to shape lives around the globe. How did the Sasanian Empire rise to power? The land that eventually housed the Sasanian Empire had already seen a lot of history cross over it. The Achaemenid Empire, an early Persian empire that reigned from around 550 BCE to 330 BCE, fell to Alexander the Great. Alexander was one of the most famous conquerors in world history, but he died only 2 years after conquering the area, leaving the people at the mercy of his generals, who promptly began fighting the Wars of the Diadochi. Seleucus I Nicator eventually took over, ruling the area from 305 to 281 BCE. He established the Seleucid Empire, which lasted until 63 BCE. It stretched from modern Turkey to Pakistan. Although their subjects influenced the Seleucid rulers, they remained connected to their Greek culture, making them permanent cultural outsiders. Eventually, the Parthian Empire took over all the Persian territories controlled by the Seleucid Empire. Although they were more Persian than the Seleucid Empire had been, the Parthians were still influenced by Hellenistic culture. They are not traditionally well known, but historians remember the Parthians best for their antagonistic relationship with Rome. Progress on a truly unique culture did not begin in earnest until the Sasanian Empire began in 224 CE. The founder and first ruler of the Sasanian Empire was Ardashir I. He was born around 180 CE and came from the region of Fars, initially called Pars, where the word Persian comes from today. He was connected to either the Sassanids or the Achaemenids, but both groups were an essential part of Iranian identity and mythology, giving Ardashir added prominence. Mythologically, the traditional dynasty of kings holds a place of prominence in Zoroastrianism, an Iranian religion. As a Persian, Ardashir was interested in re-establishing Persian and, eventually, the Iranian culture. Zoroastrianism is a religion that holds both monotheistic and polytheistic viewpoints. It states that the universe is caught in a battle between good and evil. Although good is sure to triumph in the end, humans should use their free will to choose purity and avoid defiling themselves. It is one of the oldest Iranian religions of which historians have reliable sources. Zoroastrianism was traditionally founded in the 6th century BCE by Zarathustra, a priest. Other fundamental Iranian mythologies mixed into it over time, giving Ardashir the political and cultural power he needed to start an empire. Once he had conquered the region, Ardashir I started his dynasty, which he named after Sasan, his forefather. He reigned from 224 to 242 CE and spent his reign focusing on making Zoroastrianism the state religion, centralizing the government, and monitoring the rivalry between the Roman Empire that frequently erupted into wars. The Sasanian Empire was not a tiny empire only connected with the Roman and Byzantine empires due to location. They were involved with the larger international community. They also traded with several kingdoms in India and the Tang dynasty in China. In both areas, Sasanian products were highly respected. However, the Sasanian Empire took a lot of work to centralize. The Parthian Empire had left the small kingdoms to run themselves and formed an empire based on alliances. Bringing those kingdoms together under a cohesive government was challenging. Still, Ardashir I eventually organized a central government, steeping much of their administration system in Zoroastrianism to lend the system more legitimacy. The central government oversaw projects to improve the empire, such as building roads and city buildings and focusing on agriculture. Although Ardashir did great work consolidating the empire, he could not end the tensions with Rome. That task fell to his son, Shapur I, who began to co-rule with his father in 240 CE. His reign lasted until 270 CE. He quickly proved himself an excellent military leader by exploiting the Roman Empire's weakening state. The Romans and Persians had been fighting over Armenia and Mesopotamia for many years by the time Shapur I came to the throne, but he finally forced the Roman Emperor Philip the Arab, who reigned from 244 to 249 CE, to sign a treaty and give Armenia to Persia. However, Shapur knew the Roman Empire was weak at this point, so he continued pushing, eventually capturing Roman Emperor Valerian. This greatly affected Roman morale and made the Sasanian Empire more potent than ever. Sadly, even the Roman defeat under Shapur I could not sustain the Sasanian Empire. Further conflicts with the Romans saw the Sasanian people losing land, and the inner turmoil led to chaos. Shapur II was born into all this unrest, being born shortly after his father was assassinated in 309. The nobles decided to make the baby king instead of one of his older brothers because they thought the boy, who would essentially be raised under their guidance, would be easier to manipulate. However, instead of becoming a puppet ruler, Shapur II was imaginative and took the Sasanian Empire to new heights. He was also a good general who continued to take advantage of the Roman Empire's weakened state to gain more territory and power for his own country. While the Sasanian Empire was well known for its power and military might, it also saw a revival of nationalism and culture. Its art saw a renaissance, resulting in feats such as impressive palace architecture, sophisticated gem engraving, and rock sculptures carved directly into limestone cliffs. In particular, Shapur II is best known for having the Zoroastrian scriptures written down, which serves as a written record of Sasanian culture and traditions. Shapur II was a good king, but the most famous Sasanian king was Khosrow I, who reigned from 531 to 579 CE. Khosrow I was a skilled administrator and military leader. He eventually became the model for an ideal Iranian king. He was especially interested in gaining knowledge and paid particular attention to the Academy of Gundashapur. It served as the Sasanian center of learning. Historians believe it was one of world history's most important learning centers. Part of the academy focused on collecting texts from the neighboring countries, creating a wealth of international information that eventually passed into European culture. With his administration skills, Khosrow implemented several reforms that historians believe sustained the Sasanian Empire for at least the next 100 years. His tax reforms prevented the leaders of the empire's various territories from taxing the population without paying taxes themselves. These reforms helped the central government better predict its income. Khosrow I also implemented military reforms to allow the empire to react quickly to threats from the west, east, or south, allowing it to better protect its borders. The Sasanian Empire was strong and culturally rich, but even the work of great emperors could not save the empire forever. Like all those who came before, the Sasanian Empire eventually fell, leaving behind an influence that continued to shape the world long after they were gone. How did the Sasanian Empire fall? The Sasanian Empire fell partially because of the Arab invasion, and partly because it overextended itself. The Sassanians had maintained their animosity with the Roman Empire after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, extending their wars to encompass the Byzantine Empire as well. The Persian wars with the Byzantine Empire from 602 to 622 were successful, but they exhausted the Persian army and left the empire in dire financial straits. The government, led by King Khosrow II, responded by overtaxing the population. However, the Byzantine Empire eventually rallied to defeat the Sasanian Empire in 628 CE. The Sassanian defeat led to Khosrow's murder by his son Kavad II, who ascended to the throne and ended the war. However, he died after ruling for only a short time. Over the next 4 years, the Sasanian Empire saw 5 kings take the throne. Each succession only made the empire weaker because they lacked a strong king to control the centralized government. The generals became the central authority for those critical years, and by the time the empire found a strong king, the Sassanians did not have time to recover before the Arabs attacked. They had been weakened by years of war, heavy taxation, social unrest, and economic decline, so they were not ready to face the Muslim forces when they arrived. The last Sasanian king was Yazdegerd III. He became king at the age of 8 amidst civil turmoil and reigned from 632 to 651 CE. By this point, the Arab Muslim forces had been making advances throughout the Middle East for a few years, including taking territories in the Sasanian Empire and forcing Yazdegerd to travel from province to remaining province to garner support and resources. In 633 CE, the Arab forces took Hira, removing the buffer state between the Muslims and the Sasanian Empire. They then defeated the Sassanian army later that year at the Battle of Dat al-Salasil. By 634 CE, southern Iran, then called Sawad, had fallen under Islamic control. The Arab forces continued to push into the empire, and the once great Persian army was powerless to stop them. They lost all of southern Mesopotamia to the Muslims in 636 CE. In 637 CE, they fought the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah and lost Iranian general Rostam Farrakhzad and most of his army. King Yazdegerd III was forced to flee the capital. For 11 years, he was continually forced east as the Arab forces took over Iran's heartland and marched east after him. In 651 CE, the leader of Mav refused to help Yazdegerd in his flight, and historians believe a local miller near Mav murdered the last Sasanian king. Although the end of the Sasanian Empire may seem brutal, this Persian Empire left much behind that survived the Islamic invasion. Their culture merged with Muslim culture in the area, leading to the Iranian culture we know today. The Sasanian Empire was also responsible for discovering and maintaining learning while Europe was still in the Dark Ages, preserving texts until they were ready to be reintroduced to the international community. Their art continues to impress people today, and their influence on the modern community continues to shape global policies, making their history and contributions worthy of more popular examination. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about the Sasanian Empire, check out our Captivating History book series, available as ebooks, paperbacks, and audiobooks. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.